Hey guys, Al2 back today with part 2 of my Losi AT pool start removal and backplate installation. If you didn't see part 1, make sure to click on the link and watch part 1 first. Let's go ahead now and get started with part 2. Before we put our new backplate on, this looks a little dry in here. Exhaust port here, you see your piston in there. Going to remove the glow plug. Going to move this down to bottom dead center. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that piston in there moving. There it is at the bottom. You can see your crank down the bottom. To put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in there. Lube that stuff up before we put it back together. Just going to put a little bit in here, down in there. I'm going to even put some down in the top. So just go ahead and work that around a little bit. How tight the sleeve is, really tight. Sleeve is really tight. These new engines, these sleeves are tapered. This is why I tell you guys, don't pull these without having some oil in there. These sleeves are tapered, so you're pulling these. I know first thing we want to do when we get these is pull on that puller, but there, just work that in there a little bit. And that is really tight. This engine is really tight, so you go pulling on that puller. You go pull on that puller without any oil in there, you'll scratch the inside of that cylinder wall up, and you know that's going to shorten the life of your engine. So good old 3-in-1, guys. If you don't have some of this, it's just useful for everything, so recommend you get some. Alright, we're going to set that piston at bottom dead. There we go. Go ahead and get our backplate kit out. Comes with 4 screws in the plate. Now you notice, if you can see that or not, but there's a arrow on one end of this. That's the top, so that will go in like so. And what I like to do on these is you got this seal on here. I like to take some little bit of silicone shock fluid, just coat that ring. That'll help it to swell up and seal well. Alright, now we're going to put our back plate on. Remember the arrow? So just go ahead and slide that in, like so. What I like to do is just turn this a little bit, twist this around, and then go ahead and pop it in. Now we can put our 4 screws in. Lock tight. Make sure you shake that up really good. drop on all our screws. Get all 4 of these started, and we'll snug them up. Let's go back and forth on them till they're snug. All right, there's our back plate. This is probably a good time to, if you guys haven't done so, mark your flywheel. What I mean like that is I like to take a Sharpie and when your piston is bottom dead center, you see that piston moving up in there. Mark your flywheel with a Sharpie so you know where that is. Now you can mark the top, the bottom. It's a little harder when you're using a bump box because your bump box is going to be engaging this flywheel and it is probably eventually going to wear the Sharpie off, but for the time being I'm just going to mark the top of mine with a nice coating. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll just turn to the side so you can see the mark I put on. So, and that's at the top. When I'm looking at the top of this flywheel, I'll know that that piston's bottom dead center. Now, this is good for storing when you're done running your vehicles. Make sure that piston's down at the bottom, especially when the engine's new and that sleeve is not worn in yet some, because what will happen is your engine will end up freezing. When it cools down, it'll tighten up around that piston and you'll have a hard time getting that to move, especially if you're still maintaining a pull start. Well, that's it, guys. Next thing we gotta do is remove these engine mounts. The heat sink on the head here, having a hard time getting in there, and again I'm not even sure what these are. Let's see what these are. These, not sure. So this is where sometimes having ball ends help. A little ball on the end. These is too, that ball is too big. I may have some smaller ones. I didn't have a ball end to fit these. These are, once again, 3/32, so I was able to get in just at the right angle. Luckily these aren't super tight. And I'm not sure why these didn't have any Loctite on them. There's no Loctite on these. So 3/32, if you have an Allen key, you can get that in there. But this is where a little ball Allens come in helpful. This is the old mount. This is the new mount. You can see there's a little lip. The lip goes to the inside. Okay. Lip goes to the inside. Just like so. On there, like that. Line your 2 screws up. I'm going to Loctite these. These were not Loctited before, but we're going to put some on. I got our 4 screws all mounted on our, they're just snug, so we're just going to take a Allen key here and tighten them up. Like I said, I did put some Loctite on these. These weren't Loctited. There's 2. Double check these quick. Definitely tight. There's our engine with our pull start removed. Our 2 new engine mounts. Alright, let's get the chassis back up here, the vehicle, and let's get this thing installed back in. I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but here's my old pencil mark from where the old motor mount was, as far as getting it lined up right. These motor mounts are the same width, so that should help me with getting this motor lined back up, because the problem with that is, like I said earlier, you could either have it tilted this far, too much this way, or kind of off, and you're not going to be engaging your spur gear correctly. You know, if this is, you can see right there, but if it's off just a little bit, you're going to be sort of at an angle in there, so that should help me get that line back up straight. We're going to go ahead and get these 4 engine mounts, chassis engine mounts started. I'm going to get them all but snug, and then we'll get this lined up. We'll get our gear lined up, and once that all looks good, then we'll snug them all down. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can already see this flywheel sticks down a little farther than the old engine. So let's go ahead and get our mounting screws back started here. Putting some Loctite on. Make sure you shake this stuff up good before you use it, because it does settle. I'm just going to get these just enough where I could still move it around. Then we're going to get that gear lined up. Once that's all set, I'm just going to get these up. It's not going to move very easily. But I can shake it around wherever I want. And nice one. Now these did have Loctite on them, so you definitely want to Loctite these down good. Alright, let's go ahead and flip this over. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm right on the pencil mark. And if you're looking at the gear mesh, the gear is lined up, looks straight. We'll have to see about the tightness, but I think we'll snug it up right there, and then we'll check and see. Should be just a tad bit of play. So we'll check that. Let's get it tightened up. Go ahead and snug these real good. Remember how tight these were getting them off. I'm going to snug them up with this tool. I'm going to take my Allen key, give them a little twist. You don't want these moving. Alright, got everything tightened up, snugged up. I'm just going to check this gear mesh real quick. So I'm pretty much on my old mark. The way you can really check this is to go ahead and hold the spur gear. I can kind of hold it underneath. And then go ahead, we can take this. It should be just a little bit of play. See that? Hear that? Little bit of play? That just seems about perfect to me. You just want a little bit of play in there, so it's not too tight, as you can see. Should be good. I think we're going with that. Alright, now we can go ahead and reattach our exhaust. So that just goes over your exhaust port like so. And then you can bring your spring cover. Get our spring reattached here. Goes in the center hole. You just gotta stretch that spring as best you can. It's kind of tough to get on there, but you can get it onto that plate. Okay, it's back on. Hold your exhaust on. That spring was a bugger, but we got it on there. Just don't be afraid to pull on it. So we have to get our throttle linkage hooked back in. Goes on like so. There's a little grub screw that holds that on. This piece is plastic, so no Loctite. It's snug. Make sure that's working well. Alright, all we need to do is get our fuel lines hooked back up. Here's our carburetor feed. It just kind of, it's in this little holder. And here's our back pressure from our pipe back to the fuel tank. Alright, before I put the filter back on, I did pick up I think I showed this in the unboxing video, an outerwears cover for that. So let's get that open here. Perfect time to be putting that on. It's the outerwears filter cover for the 8T. This just fits over the filter. Extra protection against dirt. Guys, these are just nice to have. There's a little pull button here. You press the button in and you can draw it tight. Like perfect. Alright, let's go ahead and put our filter back on. Now remember, there was a zip tie here on the carburetor. There's a zip tie to hold that tube, flexible tube on the carburetor. Here's our pin, which holds the cap on. I'll have to get a tie wrap. And wrap that back up. That goes around here. Around here, you see this little groove here that it fits around. Not sure I have the right size for that. Let's just have a look here and see what I got. Yeah, that'll be fine. It might be a little big, but go ahead and get my pliers here and get that nice and tight. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up the engine upgrade here on the Losi 8 Truggy edition. how to remove the pull start and put a back plate on so you can use a bump box. Should give us a little bit of performance gain on the engine as well, since we're not having to, you know, use the engine to spin this heavy part. It's something less for the engine to turn, and something you know, less weight that the engine's turning as well. So expect to pick up a little bit of performance gain there. I don't know how much, but definitely some, that's for sure. It went pretty smooth overall. If you guys have any questions about anything you saw in the video, you know, make sure to drop me a comment down below and I'll answer it the best I can for you. So next step will be to, you know, get this engine broken in. I don't know when that's going to be. Got a lot of projects going on this winter. Just got a whole bunch of parts in for some of my fifth scales and whatnot, but you know, I have the bump box for this Losi 8 truggy here as well, so I'm going to have probably a video coming out on that soon, so you'll get a chance to see that and what I'm going to use with this. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming up. Stay tuned for that, guys, and I will see you then. All right, thanks for watching so long.